OneWrestling.com. This is Bill Apter. Welcome to the Apter Chat face-to-face today. Luke Hawx, welcome first time ever here on OneWrestling.com.
I'm glad to be here for my first Skype interview.
Well, this is it. This is it. You are face-to-face with me right now and all the viewers here out in OneWrestling.com land. So
the best place to be, right?
It is. It is. It is. I heard something about you today when I told somebody that I was meeting with you on our face-to-face Apter Chat. They said, "Did you know what with Luke Hawx? You're going to talk wrestling with him, right?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Why don't you bring up this thing that guy, that wrestler, Luke Hawx, has been in more movies than any other professional wrestler." Is that true?
That's a correct statement, and
really?
Why there's no lead acting roles, but through my stunt work and small acting roles, I've been in over 50 plus films and TV shows,
Wow,
which is
really?
definitely more than Hulk Hogan, The Rock, or John Cena. So I guess I'm doing all right.
And who are some of the people that you've some of the films that you've been in with? Let's name drop some big stars.
I've worked with Sylvester Stallone a lot. There's actually, I'm kind of bummed out about one. There's a new movie coming out called Grudge Match with Robert De Niro and Sylvester Stallone.
Yes, yeah.
I got casted to fight Robert De Niro in that, and I had to turn it down because they switched dates. And I was filming something else at the time. So, yeah, so.
See, I know that Stallone wanted you.
That's exactly what it was. I've actually worked with Stallone a lot.
He called me. He called me.
He called you and he told you?
Do you know what he said? He said,
Tell me.
the guy, So he immediately. How do you get that?
That's exactly how he sounds, too.
Actually, a trivia fact that a lot of people don't know about, and I brought this up to Hulk Hogan a couple of weeks ago, is that I'm the guy, Sylvester Stallone's office called the magazine office when I worked for the magazines, and they were looking for a type, and I sent them 2 photos. I sent them Superstar Billy Graham and Hulk Hogan. And as they say, the rest is history.
Wow, that's a congrats. I think you should be getting the royalties instead of him then.
Yeah, and had you been around back then. But yeah, so is this, the movie thing, something you wanted to be since you were a kid?
It's something I always wanted to do, but nothing like wrestling. My heart and passion's with wrestling.
Yeah.
So I broke off into the movies from Vampiro, actually, believe it or not.
Oh,
we were filming WSX, and Vampiro had a project going on in Mexico. And him and his producers came up to me and they said, "Hey, we're doing this project in a few months. You got a great look. We'd like to know if you'd be interested, in playing a character." And I said, "Of course. What are you going to say?" But of course, I thought it was BS at first because you meet a lot of guys and they say a lot of things, and you just go, okay, you take it with a grain of salt. A few months later, man, I got a phone call from them, and they said, "Look, we're shooting on these dates. Are you available?" They flew me down to Guadalajara, and that really got my foot in the door. But what really got me in was I live in Louisiana, and most of the film work is here now. It's moved from Hollywood to here, and they call this Hollywood South.
Yes.
So I kind of lucked out and just get my foot in the door, and then started meeting more and more people and training. I trained for like 2 years before I actually got my first before I got my SAG role and SAG card.
Screen Actors Guild, of course.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
just
and that
was.
was. Yeah, with Rob Van Dam and Batista on, man, what's the name of the movie? You think I would remember my first movie where I got my SAG card. It goes to show you those wrestling concussions.
We'll give you time to think of it before the end of. So that's the movie career. But we didn't come here to, and again, you need to try and come up with that name before we end this. But we didn't come here just to discuss the movies, of course. We came here to discuss your career. You and I go way back in the days when I think Vic Grimes trained you out in California.
Right. So yeah, we go back. I've been in 14 years now, going on. This will be my 15th year going into it. So
and you've wrestled everywhere. I mean, you've been with the indies. You've worked for almost every indie. You've been all over the world. You were also at TNA. You were with WWE. You've done just about everything.
I've been very blessed, man. I'm lucky. I've worked really hard. As you know, I've transformed my body, and I've really concentrated on putting weight on. And I picked up bodybuilding as a hobby and sport, which I fell in love with now, and I live by it. I wish I would have done it earlier in my career. But I've had a lot of blessed opportunities. I think one of my biggest things that I kind of hold a grudge, but I don't know if I hold a grudge, but I'm bummed out about is I don't get a lot of magazine coverage, and I think it's because of where I live in the South. They
Well,
don't.
wait. There's also, because I work for Fighting Spirit magazine in England, but there's not a lot of magazines anymore.
No, there's not, but the ones they are, like there's PWI, it still comes around. They put a few issues out and stuff. Like, for instance, this year alone was my hottest year ever in pro wrestling. I was the 2013 King of the Indies. I also won the Shamrock Cup, which is a big,
Oh,
independent
yes,
tournament.
yes, yes.
I didn't even make the PWI 500. How ridiculous is that?
I don't know. I haven't worked for them for many, many years, but
Right. I know this, but I'm saying it's just I feel like it's a little disrespectful on those guys from magazine ends because I think when guys like you get out of the business, who not out of the business, but
no, I'm still in the business, still in
you
it,
follow
very,
it,
very much so,
you follow it,
and I cover it.
yeah, you cover well. Well, those guys focus on a certain group of guys, and they just kind of cover them, and it's not really well spread out anymore. And it's kind of a bummer because you miss out on a lot of guys' hard work, especially guys in the South, because there's a lot of good guys in Texas, in the Florida area, and Louisiana now with what I got going on with Wildcat, my school
Well,
here.
what I've got to do then, since you are the Southern Stomper, correct?
Correct, correct.
What I've got to do now is tell you, when I was at the magazines, is that you also need to be in touch with the magazines as well. I mean, that's how
Right.
it used to work.
I've talked to a few guys from it, and just they kind of blow you off. I think it's because I don't have the ring of honor. I'm not the Davey Richards or the hot, the low key, the hot commodity at the moment. So they kind of go, oh, this guy, yeah, he's been around, he's done a lot of stuff, but he's not the guy everybody's talking about in the Northeast right now, doing the craziest things. So we'll kind of just okay, yeah, we'll think about it. So.
So that's your take on the current magazine scene. Well,
That is honestly. So
PWI is still around, and I still talk to the editors periodically, and I'll make sure that your message gets there.
please do. Thank you.
Sure, I will.
I've been one of those guys who've I've never really hold my tongue on a lot of stuff, and I've got
I
that.
can tell.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. I feel, and again, this is nothing against you. I just feel it's disrespectful towards me because I've put so much hard work in my career and trying to build this thing. And I mean, I'm the only pro wrestler to ever have my picture. That's not WWE, WCW. To have my picture in TV Guide.
Is that right?
That's another fact.
What was the occasion?
It was
Even though
for WSX.
that's not what justifies getting you into a 500, but what was the occasion?
No, it was just for for WSX when MTV had our short-lived wrestling show. But normally you don't see they had a picture of me and Alcatraz in there as our tag team, which was cool because the only other guys you ever seen in TV Guide that were wrestlers were somebody from WCW or WWE from back in the day.
Oh, sure.
So it's just I got a lot of little cool attributes to my career, like some books. There was a book that was written partially on me. Of course, all my movie work, my stunt work, so there's a lot of things that I do outside of the wrestling world that I don't think that the wrestling world gives me enough recognition for.
Tell us about this book you just mentioned. I didn't know anything about that.
The book was older. The book was around the time when me and you first met. It was probably put out in around 2004-ish when it first came out. But it was called Slap Happy, and it was a guy from New York who wrote for the New York Times. I think he wrote for the New York Times. He wrote a book on pro wrestling, and he did a lot of interviews with guys like The Rock and stuff, anything that was coming up. And one good section of the book was fully featured on me. He came down to New Orleans from New York, spent a week and a half with me, traveled with me on some indie shows. So and this is an early point in my career, but it was good coverage for me. It was just something good to say, hey, look, I'm in a book that you can go to any bookstore worldwide and look up this book, and there's pictures of me, and there's my, somewhat of my life story.
So basically, the bottom line is you feel that you're being shortchanged in the publicity end of this business. Well, we're glad to have you here at OneWrestling.com.
Oh, man, I appreciate having it. Yeah, I definitely feel that, though, because you see, when guys like Romeo Rosselli and those guys that were, they're doing these movies, man, these guys aren't working on much. And here I am working on films like Green Lantern and Homefront that's in theaters now, which I play a hitman in. G.I. Joe 2. I fought Triple H in The Chaperone. So there's just
right. That was you.
There's so much I've done that doesn't even get covered, and I just it baffles me because I'm like,
Well,
here
you
I
know
am.
what? You know what? We welcome you here on One Wrestling anytime. Maybe once a month we can make a date and do this and update with you about what's going on.
I'd love to. Anytime y'all want to, I'm definitely game for it. I've always been a big fan of your work, Bill. So
Well,
and
thank
you've
you. I
always been a
appreciate
super
that.
nice, funny guy. So I love that's one part of the business that I truly love is the business has a lot of things where people talk about the bad that's happened in old times. There's so many good people that the business doesn't give enough credit to, and the guys like yourself, and that's just in all straight up
Well,
honesty.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. You got that. You sound like an altar boy. Altar boy Luke. That was
maybe
so. Let's
maybe
go ahead.
there might be a little bit of niceness still left in me on the inside from that.
There may be. There may be. So one of the main reasons that I asked you to come on here today is that December 28th in Philadelphia, it will be you getting into the ring against Matt
Fat
Hardy.
Hardy.
Yeah, yeah, and there's quite a history of between you and Matt Hardy. You at an Extreme Rising show, you hurt him.
Right, correct.
In turn, if I remember correctly, he attacked your son. How old is your
Right.
son?
My son he's 15 now. He was 14 at the time, and Matt whopped him pretty good. So he put his hands on a kid, which that's something. Yeah, it's my kid, so I'm gonna feel a certain way about it. I don't know how the general public feels about it, but for him to put his hands on I'm not talking about shake him up. He popped my son. So you see it. It was caught on video. They actually were filming. Matt was in the middle of an interview, and my son came in there and kind of mouthed it off to him.
So he attacked your son after you had seriously injured him.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, like I said, and it was caught on video. He was in the middle of an interview, and my son was just happened to be right there and mouthed it off to him a little bit. And he's my son, so of course he's going to take up for me. But I don't think it gave Matt the right to put his hands on a minor. So, but I'm not the kind of guy that calls the police for anything or does any of that. Actually, at the event, a few people wanted to, and they were like, there's no way he should have put his hands on him. But
Now, in the meantime, though, and not defending Matt Hardy's actions, of course, he shouldn't have done that. I saw the video. In the meantime, your son, though, refereed a match with you against Matt Hardy in New Orleans, correct?
Well, that match was in Monroe, Louisiana.
In Louisiana, though. But how did your son, at 14 or 15 years old, get in there to referee? I mean, that's pretty...
It's Louisiana. It's still a little backwoods here. We can pull some strings.
Okay, yeah,
that's a good.
But that's
good thing about living here.
That's a dangerous position for a 14 or 15-year-old kid to be.
Yeah, he's a tough kid though, and he's got the toughest guy in his corner to back him up. So there ain't too many worries. A lot of guys, show him a lot of respect, and I think he's pretty well known now. I've actually seen people since these incidents happened. People coming up to him and fans actually take pictures and get autographs from him. So
sure.
But yeah, I find that pretty funny.
It's interesting, but now we go to the Saturday the 28th, Extreme Rising, and by the way, you fans need to go to extremerising.com and check out what an incredible lineup they have. But it's going to be you and Matt Hardy, and I believe what is the stipulations of this match?
There's no stipulations. Not that I know of and aware of. The stipulation is I'm going to stick my foot down his throat.
That's it.
That's it, man. I'm excited about it because it's back at the arena. So it's the first wrestling show back at the arena since it shut down, and everybody knows, the aura of the ECW arena.
Yes,
if you don't, if you don't know that, you're probably not a fan of wrestling. So I'm really excited to go there, and I'm really excited to take this match in Philadelphia, in front of that crowd, because that Philadelphia-Pittsburgh crowd is where it all brewed from. So now that we actually get to go back there and have the match where we've had it several other places and tore the house down and sold the shows out. I mean, everywhere we've been so far, which is New Orleans, Monroe, Minnesota, every place has been 1,000+ in the crowd. We've sold out 1,000+. So I'm excited to get in Philadelphia and see what we can do there.
Okay, and of course, the Extreme Rising World Champion will be there. Stevie Richards. Yeah, he will
Yes.
be there. Sabu, I understand, will
Sabu.
be there. Who else?
Super crazy.
Super
Bestia,
crazy.
Damien 666 is coming in for the first time. Hio Del Rey Mysterio, Papa Don. My brother Homicide will not be there, unfortunately, but
Oh, yeah.
you know, rumor is he might be hanging out, so
Okay.
that's a good thing. Yeah, so there's a lot of good guys, a lot of good talent on these shows.
It's going to be a great show, and again, like you said, it's the first wrestling show to come back to the arena, what they used to call the old ECW arena, the Bingo
Correct.
Hall.
I mean, and like I said, it's just stacked with talent. So this will definitely be a show you won't want to miss because of all the guys. It's hard to see all these people in one place at one time, and it's going to happen at Extreme Rising. So it's definitely a show you don't want to miss.
So, where can people find Luke Hawx on the internet if they want to get in touch with you?
Twitter is probably the best way. Luke Hawx 504 at Twitter. I'm also on Facebook. Luke Hawx HAWX. Wildcatsports.com, which is my training facility in school, and we run live shows and events in New Orleans. You can check that out. That's Wildcat with a K. Wildcatsports.com.
All right.
And you can definitely plug that up. We got some really good talent down here. That like I said, that are on the verge of breaking out. A few of them worked some of the Extreme Rising shows already, like Buku Dow and Matt Lancey and Bo Brady.
Yeah.
So these guys are branching out, and hopefully we'll see these guys back in Extreme Rising in the future also.
That sounds great. That sounds great. Thank you so much for joining us. And by the way, before we went on, when we were just hooking up with Skype here, you asked me if you wanted to buy that painting. My wife made it.
Yeah,
It's not for sale.
Interested. I'm interested in putting a bid in. I'm sure you got a lot of guys on it already, but
It's not for sale yet.
it's not for sale.
I'll have to check with her.
I got movie money, so let me know.
I will have to check with her. So you got movie money. Oh, that's right.
I got movie money. And also, I just came back from England and I seen your old buddy Johnny Storm.
Oh, yes. Johnny Storm, one of my favorite people in the whole world. Great, terrific wrestler, and he's involved in showbiz now, too.
Yeah, he's doing a little movie work over there. We talked about that, so it was nice to run into him because I haven't seen him in probably 9 years since XPW.
Every time I see him, we get together, we go to karaoke, and our song is I Swear. So next time you see him, you got to do a couple of bars. Thank you so much, Luke Hawx, and we're anxious to see what's going to transpire between you and Matt Hardy on the 28th at the arena.
I'm going to knock his head off.
Going to knock his head off. All right, we're going to see what's going to happen, and we will check with you the week after that show and discuss that match.
I'd love to. Thanks, Bill, for having me.
All right, we'll see you at the matches.
Take care.
You got to put that finger into the camera there.
Finger into the camera?
Right there. All right.